Can everyone hear me? Will someone nod? I can't hear anything.
Yeah, I can hear you, Scott.
Okay, great. Sorry for stepping out there for a second. Thank everyone for joining us. This is Scott Martin. I'm the North American co-chair for World Urban Parks. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today for this wonderful discussion that we're going to have, an exploration of the Green Flag Award and all the recognition and the great program that Carl is running for us there. So I'll do a brief intro here if I can. Carl, if you can let me share the screen again.
Yeah, you go ahead and share yours, Scott, and it'll replace.
I will now share my screen, so bear with me, everyone. I think we're all learning how to do this the ineffective way. And thank everyone for your patience as we get going. We got folks from all over a bunch of different time zones. So again, I'm Scott Martin from World Urban Parks. We're the organization sponsoring these. Thank you guys all for coming and women for joining us. Today, Carl is going to walk us through the Green Flag Award, which is probably the globe's highest recognition for public landscapes and park spaces. And we're really happy for Carl, who's the international director, to take us through that from across the pond, as it would be here for the States in merry old England. I'm going to run you through a brief intro of World Urban Parks for those of y'all that don't know. We are a rapidly growing organization comprised of folks that work in the urban environment across the globe and have recognized that we have a lot in common. And just to put a precise point on that, I think the COVID crisis has taught us a lot because it spread horizontally across the globe at such a rapid speed. What we've learned in the parks world is innovations, challenges are shared every as much from Sydney to Copenhagen and every point in between. And our organization aims to be a conduit where we innovate, we create, we problem solve, we help each other as we face similar challenges across the globe. So on your screen now, if you aren't already aware of our organization, a lot of folks aren't, we would love to engage with you later. You can follow us on all the typical social media platforms that you see there listed as well. And you may have seen some stuff over the last couple of weeks on Park Week, which was pushed out by the organization in the midst of this pandemic we're all experiencing, and some of the work you've probably seen over the last year from the National Park City program, which will be a webinar coming up shortly, brought to us by the folks from the National Park City Foundation. Our next webinar, though, is actually today. It's a twofer if you're stuck at home or stuck somewhere and you want to webinar yourself to death. It's a really, really good one. I encourage you to participate and join in. It's a free program. It'll be at 2 p.m. my time. That's East Coast time in the States. I trust you to do the conversion to wherever you are now. And just a wonderful group of speakers there from across the globe, just about every continent save Antarctica, talking about what they're doing in terms of park management and some of the innovations, challenges, and approaches that are being made. So that'll be at 2 o'clock later today. So that's the introduction. The process today is I'm going to turn it over to Carl, who's going to wow us with his Irish wit and walk us through the program. And then at the end, Kelly and I shall do our best to make sure we can address questions that come up. So if you have questions, please enter those as you would into the chat box, and we will forward those on to Carl, and appreciate your patience with that. So with no further yapping from me, I'm going to stop my share, and Carl, you have control. Take it away.
Great. Am I showing now? Is it live? Is that sharing okay? Great.
Yes.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Scott, and welcome everybody. It's great to have you all here today. As Scott went through, the structure for today's webinar will be about 30 minutes of my presentation going through the Green Flag Award, and then Q&A facilitated by Kelly, Ray, and Scott. So if you have any questions throughout the webinar, just pop them in the chat box, and we'll aim to answer them at the end if we haven't done so already through the chat. So let's start with the headline. The Green Flag Award is the longest serving and most widely established parks accreditation program in the world today. We now celebrate over 2,000 winners across 15 countries every single year. And this program is growing every single year as well, into new towns, new cities, and new countries on a constant basis. I'm really proud to have the opportunity in my role and with the help of our growing network to support parks professionals, parks departments and city planners to apply for this award for the very first time. And if they are successful, we also provide them with the ongoing support to maintain the recognized standard every single year. So, oh, sorry. So a lot of what I want to focus on today is about the why. We'll get to the sort of the what and the how of the Green Flag Award, how it works, the processes and the practicalities. But what's really important, and what I think everybody would be much more interested in, is the why. Why do we do things the way we do throughout this accreditation program? And a main thing I want to point out is that it's much more than just an award program. And on this slide, why, I also quite often start with a little chat about how why parks and green spaces are so important. But I think actually everybody here with a bit of experience in parks and green spaces, we already know the answer to this by now. There's a frequency of surveys, reports, news articles, and whilst I fully support and back the efforts behind such things, does anybody sometimes feel like we're stuck in a bit of a analysis paralysis, praising parks when we already know in the sector how hugely beneficial they are? So there's no real question about that. But interestingly, another why that I'd like to tackle is why, if we know this about public parks and green spaces, then why are they too often underfunded? Why are they too often under-resourced? And why do they too often go under-recognized by the key decision makers in our societies? And the Green Flag Award provides some very practical solutions to these questions, which I hope to cover with you today. Another question we'll be exploring today is why has this program in particular been such a success in gaining the respect and recognition in so many countries around the world? So these are some of the questions I want to pay close attention to, in particular this notion of why. And finally, perhaps the biggest question I hope to address also provides the most answers: why the Green Flag Award is not just an award program. There is so much more going on here beneath the surface than first meets the eye. I've got little pop-ups in the corner to remind me to go into the why on each slide, so sorry about that. So the word good, it's a really simple word, isn't it? We all know what good is, don't we? But do we really? What is good? Can you define good? And why is defining good so important anyway? Well, before the Green Flag Award got started here in the UK, there was a lot of talk around increasing access to parks, increasing access to green space. But the glaring omission from many of these conversations was the question of quality. Nobody stopped to ask whether the parks or the green spaces being accessed were any good. And we all know that poor quality parks and green spaces can actually deter people from visiting them. And therefore, all of the benefits that we talk about are massively reduced. So what was really needed was to flip this message over from access to parks to access to good quality parks and access to good quality green space. And in order to do that in the first place, you need to define what you mean by good. And if you don't define what good is, how are you ever going to get support for it, professionally, financially, and politically? And thankfully, in 1996, a group of individuals and organizations, NGOs and the like, in England got together to tackle this very question of what do we mean by good? And some key organizations were involved, like Natural England, the Pesticide Action Network, and an organization that was the Institute of Leisure and Amenity Management, so a broad spectrum of stakeholders in the industry. And their intentions were not simply to address what makes a good park. The goal was to use the answer to establish a recognized standard, and then park managers could use this recognized standard as their voice. And in turn, they can then use this voice to influence the decision makers to support and improve parks. And I'm talking about some of the basic things here, like influencing budgets, staffing, and resources. And it's no mistake that my little symbol over influence looks fairly political. I mean, let's get real here. This is a political issue a lot of the time. And in order to improve parks, to make them the best they can be, you need some level of political influence. And I'm not only talking about party politics, I'm talking about the politics within your department, within your organization, within your town or city, municipal structure, or even within your country. And the Green Flag Award works really well at facilitating all of this through a really positive lens. And it's important also to start about governance, because this is really a critical part of the award, especially with regards to maintaining its integrity. The Green Flag Award programme is owned by the UK Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Governments. Now, to cut a long story short, the UK government took over the management of the award programme in 2003 at a critical point in history when the programme was at risk of being lost. I mean, that in itself is saying something about how valued this award programme was to the park sector in the UK, that the British government thought it was so important to preserve in perpetuity. And at the time, in 2003, there were already hundreds of parks already in the programme in the UK. And so the charity I work for, Keep Britain Tidy, holds the international responsibility from the British government to deliver it. Now, Keep Britain Tidy are a UK environmental charity established over 60 years ago, and we are very proud to manage and develop the award internationally. But this isn't just about the UK, this is also a global network. We work with partners in other countries to deliver the programme. Now, why we do this is really important. Sorry, I'll go back. Why we do this is really important because this isn't an export of parks knowledge and experience from the UK, showing other people how to manage their parks. The experience and the understanding comes from within each country that we work in, and therefore it's critical, where possible, that we work with a partner organisation in each country. If you go on our website and check out our network section, you can see which countries we have partners in, and other countries where we're managing it directly from the UK. Now, we're looking for a partner in every country. In particular, we're looking for partners at the moment in the USA, in the Netherlands and Sweden. And finally, to top all this off, this is a non-profit program. So wherever it is delivered, anywhere in the world, it must be delivered on a non-profit basis. So any surplus income generated through the annual application fees, they're all invested back into the program in each country. So let's get into a little bit of detail about the award itself, and starting with the criteria. Now, there are 8 key criteria headings, and these are broken down into more detail in our guidance manual. Now, these were originally designed to reflect the diverse elements of park management, and really were never just about aesthetics. This isn't about how green your grass is or how red your roses are. It takes into account all of the diverse aspects of parks management, from a welcoming place, which looks specifically at signage, accessibility, and equal provision for the community, right through to environmental management, community involvement, and your overall management. So a very broad spectrum. And it's been developed and refined in consultation with park managers and other related sectors for over 20 years. And if you want to go deeper, as I said, check out our website. You can download the guidance manual called Raising the Standard. It's an online PDF. It's completely free to download. And in terms of some of the functions, the application process itself. Now, when we think about applications, we kind of shudder in fear that this is going to be a huge paperwork exercise with loads of information that needs to be submitted and that will never be seen again. Well, Green Flag Award is a bit different. It's a really simple application process. Generally, it's around 250 words, and it's all done online through our online portal. The average, it basically summarizes your park details, your contact details, and your publicity information. And the main information that you'll submit in order to meet the criteria in terms of the document side is what we call the management plan. So in order to apply for the Green Flag Award, you need to submit a management plan as part of your application. Not all parks already have this, but we work to support them to produce this. And it's really important that it is park specific rather than a citywide green space plan. And in summary, it's a single document that addresses all of the Green Flag Award criteria. And generally, some of the key categories are the history of the park, the organizational structure, the maintenance, how's the maintenance carried out, what development plans have you got, policies, procedures, all of these things that are really critical to have in one single document on the future of the park and how it's managed at the moment. It's kind of like a business plan, and it's the same as this good concept that I mentioned at the very start. You really need to define what your park is, how it's managed, and what you want to do with it in the future, so that you can then share that with some key decision makers, or share it with the public, or share it with your staff team or the community. So we've included this as part of the application process because we think it's a really important thing for the park sector. And one of the other great things about having a management plan is, as part of this network of Green Flag Award winners, we can then share the management plans with other similar parks, and you can learn from other parks along the way. And so in going on with this concept of why do we do this, we're actually trying to nudge parks into reviewing how they manage things on an annual basis. Now, again, if you're thinking of this as quite a frightening task to take on, if you haven't already got it, it should really be concise, ideally no more than 100 pages, but it can still direct to other policy documents or other larger plans that you already have. It is kind of pulling together all the information of your park universe, so to speak, into one single spot. And then in terms of the judging, now this is an annual accreditation program, so parks apply every year and they are judged every year. And generally the judging takes around 1 day, up to 1 day. Smaller parks may take a third of a day or half a day, but it should take no more than 1 day to judge most parks. And that's quite unique. For every single park to have a site visit by a judge every single year. I haven't seen any other accreditation programs that do that. So it shows a real commitment to checking on the quality. And the process itself is split into generally 2 sides. Your desk assessment is the judge's review of your management plan, and that covers around 40% of your scoring. And your site assessment, which is the actual physical visit, looking at the condition of the park and asking questions with the park's team, makes up 60% of the criteria. And both sides of this coin are governed by the Green Flag Award criteria. So there should be correspondence between the conditions that are seen on site and what is stated in the management plan. And of course, we have a minimum pass mark for each side of the element. You can't have an amazing park on the ground and not have a quality management plan to back it up, and vice versa. You can't have a great management plan but poor quality park. And then moving on to the scoring system. So all judges have a good understanding of how the scoring system works. It ranges from 0, which is very poor, right up to exceptional, which is 10. And just to give you an idea, the pass rate for the Green Flag Award is around 66%. So it's somewhere around the 7 mark on this scoring line. So this is why we use the term good parks and well-managed parks, because I'm afraid to burst a kind of inaccurate misconception here. The Green Flag Award isn't just an award for excellence. There are many excellent parks that apply for the award every year, but achieving this excellent standard isn't a realistic thing for a lot of the smaller public parks that apply every year. And there's 2 reasons for this, that we set the scoring at around 7. First of all, this is about progressive improvement. And if the fact that we set the scoring line around 7 means that parks that are maybe down the poor or fair level already, they can actually see something achievable to work towards, and therefore use the Green Flag Award as a mechanism to achieve that. And this is why the guidance manual is called Raising the Standard. It's really designed to improve and drive up the quality of parks through a structured progression. And finally, it's worth talking about the criteria itself as well, because you may, you may, for example, be scoring very high on things like your maintenance and horticultural quality, but you may score low on community involvement. And the key thing is that some parks will have strengths and weaknesses on both sides, on different criteria. And so across the board, a lot of parks find that they can focus on the things that they need to improve and generally try and address all of the criteria to achieve an award. And so you're probably wondering who does all this judging. Is it a group of, an elite band of swashbuckling inspectors that go around with clipboards? Well, actually, no. It's most of the judges are people like you and I in this webinar today. They're all volunteers, so they don't get paid for the visits that they do. They're all experienced. They're from the parks and green space sector. All judges receive a training course, 2-day training course, which is free. And we monitor the work that they're doing routinely. They're all generally park managers and parks professionals. And that's quite interesting because what you find is applicants and judges are quite often the same people. You can be a judge and an applicant at the same time. We have over 1,000 judges across 11 countries, albeit most of those in the UK, but we are training new judges in new countries every single year. The managing organisation in each country covers the expenses of a judge to go and visit the city or state that they need to judge in. And so this is removing the barriers of being a judge. It shouldn't cost you anything to volunteer your time. And usually they judge between 2 and 5 parks a year. So there's a kind of commitment required. If you want to be a judge, you're expected to visit a number of sites per year and spend a bit of time working on this program. And judges judge in 2 different ways. Sometimes they judge in pairs, which I'll explain later. And on other years, they sometimes judge alone, which is what we call a mystery shop visit. And a lot of this is really important, again, going back to the why. They're from the park sector, so they have empathy with some of the challenges you might be facing within your park, and they actually have the expertise, perhaps, to guide you in how to address some of those things. They're also independent, being volunteers, so they're not inclined to just give out awards here, there, and everywhere. Their professional integrity is on the line as well. But having said that, judging is a friendly experience. So being judged and being a judge is a friendly experience. They're from the sector, they're your peers, and they're sometimes, you may know some of them as well. So it's a friendly experience, and it's designed to go through the process of judging, go through the criteria. And I suppose one way to explain it is it's a bit like a really good job interview, when someone interviewing you is there to get the best information out of you as they possibly can. They're not there to trip you up. They're not there to find fault all of the time. They're there to support you in achieving the Green Flag Award. And so basically how this works, let's take the UK as an example. Judges are allocated to different parks on a number of factors. It could be their distance from the park, it could be their experience in the sector, or it could be their judging preferences, how many parks they're able to judge on any given year. And how it normally works is a kind of exchange. Judges move from one city to the other, not always as a direct reciprocal exchange, but it can be. And they're all allocated through our online system, through which they get access to the management plan that you will have submitted. And they usually assess this before they carry out the site visit. Now, the judging visit itself, the site assessment, is coordinated by the judges directly with the park management themselves. So very streamlined. The judges just get in touch with the park and arrange a suitable date in order to make the visit. And all of this usually happens within a set time frame, 2 or 3 months throughout the year in each country. Now this differs between Northern and Southern Hemisphere, but for example, in the UK, all of the judging generally takes place from February onwards, finishes in May, and then we announce the award later on in July. And why is this important? Well, this is kind of if you think about it, the equivalent of, I'll try and use an American analogy, kind of peeking over your neighbor's fence. So as well as, volunteering your time to judge a park and to provide your feedback and to be part of the program, you're also in a way kind of checking out what other people are doing, in their parks. You're looking at their management plan, you're looking at their processes, you're having a look under the bonnet as to how their park works. And that in itself can be a really useful exchange of knowledge, not just within an individual state or, across an individual city, because you could have multiple organizations within each city judging each other. It also provides this network of constant exchange of experience and knowledge throughout an entire country and eventually through our global network around the world. That's a really vital part of the Green Flag Award. It's about continual improvement. It's about learning from others. And I mentioned earlier about the two different types of judging. So we have full judging, which is when two judges arrange to visit the site. They review the management plan and they organize this with the park manager or the staff that are on site already. And in some countries, when we've developed the award enough, we use a mystery shop system, which is incredibly popular, because what that is a single judge will visit the park unannounced throughout the year at any undetermined time. And this in a way ensures that parks are maintaining the standards, not just on the day that they know they're going to be visited, but also on any day throughout the year, because it's a mystery when they're going to turn up. And then this cycle continues every alternate year. Now, in some new countries where we're establishing the program, we just stick to a full judging visit continuously for a couple of years until the program is established. And I think it's worth talking about cost as well. So on average, in Europe, for example, the program cost to apply for each park for the managing organization costs around €500 each year, which is around $500 at the moment. So it's important to note that that is the target cost. And in order to set up the program in its initial first couple of years, the price could be higher in different countries. And just to give you an idea of what that would buy you, I'm sure you all know. So €500 would probably get you half a litter bin if you're lucky, maybe a couple of trees, maybe a third of a bench if you're lucky. Depends on the quality. But if you're thinking about not applying for the award because of the cost and looking at these items on the screen, you're thinking quite small actually, because the benefits of applying for the award and the influence that you can drive through applying will be worth so much more than the application fee. And if I had to break it down into sort of 3 key topics for the benefits of the Green Flag Award, the first one would be the feedback that you're provided from judges. The second one would be the influence that the award garners with decision makers. And the third would be the recognition and celebration of the people that work or visit the parks that you manage. And to go into those a little bit more detail, starting with the feedback. The feedback is written by parks professionals, the judges. It's submitted every year. And again, it's independent. It's the opinions of professionals within the sector. And this is really valuable to have someone else's voice, possibly repeating the challenges that you already face, or helping you address challenges that you're trying to figure out how to get around them or how to improve. It's also very specific, so it's categorized into the Green Flag Award criteria, and then it's simply split between strengths and weaknesses. And these are written kind of qualitatively, let's say, rather than quantitatively. It's not specific scores, it's actually quality feedback, which it spells out what you need to do in order to improve. And it also celebrates the strengths of each park that applies. And I like to kind of compare this sometimes as the opposite to big data, because big data, it's very useful in some instances in terms of wide-scale city planning or urban grading, that sort of thing. But sometimes as a park manager, it can be difficult to deploy the information that comes in through big data. Much like this image here, it's kind of up in the air. It's hard to grasp and it's hard to apply down on the ground. Whereas the Green Flag Award feedback report is specific to each park and it tells you exactly the ways you can improve in order to get better next year. And the second benefit I'd like to cover is the influence. Now, we talked a little bit about this at the start, but let's remember this is a celebration of parks achieving the standard, and involving politicians or involving key decision makers in your area in the celebration is key. Once politicians are involved in this program, it's really, really popular. And in that sense, it can, as well as being beneficial to achieve the award, retaining the Green Flag Award is just as important. So politicians will also understand that in order to maintain that standard once you've got it, it requires adequate investment, adequate staffing, and adequate resources. There is always the fear that if these things are cut further down the line, that the park could lose its Green Flag Award. And here's a quick example from England. On the left, literally, we've got a councillor from the Labour Party celebrating on Twitter that Nottingham has gained extra Green Flag Awards this year, and also stating that they want to achieve more Green Flag Awards in future. What could be better than that? Because in order to achieve the Green Flag Award, you need to bring the park up to a certain standard. And then on the right, we've got our current Prime Minister, this is before he was Prime Minister, celebrating Hillingdon achieving more Green Flag Awards. Now, this is great, both sides of the political party endorsing the Green Flag Award, but also what happens is you get a little bit of political competition, shall we say, or competition between cities. So on the left, Nottingham will celebrate that it's got 39 Green Flag Awards, but then on the right, Hillingdon will celebrate that it's got 55. So there's nothing wrong with a little bit of healthy competition between two cities. And a lot of cities, Nottingham in particular, use the Green Flag Award as part of their green space strategy or their urban improvement strategy. So they target parks that they want to bring up to Green Flag Award standard every single year. And they work towards that, and they involve politicians in endorsing that progression. Now, I have to put a little disclaimer in here because Nottingham City has 39 Green Flag Awards, but actually the province or the whole municipality of Nottinghamshire actually has 69 Green Flag Awards. I have to make sure I don't undersell them. So a bit of a catch-all just in terms of the announcement. The announcement is generally made on a set time of year. So all the parks are announced at once rather than straight after they've received the judging visit. There's no tiered system, so there's no gold, silver, bronze on a Green Flag Award. If you've met the standard, you receive a green flag and you've received the award. It's also important to note that number of winners are not limited. So we don't have a limit on how many people can achieve the award each year. It's really simple. If you meet the minimum standard, you will achieve the award. Another important thing to note is we do not announce parks that fail. We're here to support parks that fail in order to achieve the award next year. And actually that's an interesting point because we do have occasionally some parks that actually apply knowing that they're going to fail because they want the feedback report to make the improvements or to demonstrate to decision makers that they haven't met the standard, and here it is written down why we haven't, and this is what we need to do to improve it. And also every year parks receive a physical flag and the feedback report digitally through the Green Flag website. And again, just to reiterate, parks reapply every year to maintain the Green Flag Award. It's an annual accreditation program. And finally, probably one of the most important things is recognition and celebration. This is a celebration of well-managed parks and the people that manage and maintain them every single day. And not just that, it shows to the public that your city or your town cares about green space and values parks. And applying for the award every year demonstrates that your management are really doing something right within park management. Let's take a little look around the world. So that's celebrations in Ireland, 5 Green Flag Awards in Fingal last year, Fingal County Council just outside Dublin. Parque Universidad de Huesca in northern Spain, first time winning the award last year. Antwerp in Belgium, this was the first city to achieve the Green Flag Award in 2018. And then in 2019, they extended that to 3 parks. So they're already on that route of using the flag to increase the quality of parks across the city. In the Middle East, we have Abu Dhabi. This is the Corniche Beach Gardens, fantastic park. Great achievement. Abu Dhabi are really using the Green Flag Award to drive forward improvements on an annual basis and adding more parks to the program every single year. And to finish with, in the US, San Francisco Presidio, amazing achievement to become the first park in America to achieve the Green Flag Award. I'm sure a lot of you on the webinar know this. It's an iconic park. It's the green gateway to the Golden Gate Bridge. And we're extremely proud that they applied for the award and are demonstrating best practice in green space management. And back to the UK, of course, Regent's Park and all of our royal parks have been involved in the Green Flag Award since 2005. They see it as a really important feature of the park sector in the UK. And actually quite a lot of the park managers within the royal parks are also Green Flag Award judges. But that's not all I need to say on the UK. Let's have a look at some of the other parks that apply from within the UK. This is Colville Park in Leicestershire. And I'll be frank, this is not a huge destination park with a big tourism factor. This is a small local community park, but that doesn't mean it's any less important than somewhere like Regent's Park. Colville Park is incredibly important to the community that it serves, and that's why it deserves recognition as well. I need to make it really clear that the Green Flag Award is not just about these huge, high-status destination parks. It's also incredibly important for smaller parks and green spaces that are vital to the communities that they serve. So we've gone around the world. Let's have a look at the overall scope. So we're into 15 countries now. Of course, small numbers in some of these countries, but it's growing every year in size. And that all depends on the demand that we get from parks applying. We do a lot of work supporting new park applications, reviewing management plans for free in order to support entry into the award scheme. And the outcome of all of this is we've now reached over 2,000 parks and green spaces in 15 countries. And these parks aren't just your traditional municipal city parks. They're also things like nature reserves, woodlands, neighborhood parks, and botanic gardens. But one critical factor is, in order to enter the Green Flag Award, you need to be free. There can't be a paid ticket entry to get in. And one of the reasons behind that is because the Green Flag Award has always been about supporting public green space, public parks, because we know that within that sector, they face a particular set of challenges that maybe paid ticketed sites do not. It's much more difficult to manage. And to summarize, I hope in quite a short space of time that I've been able to bring you along with me on this journey that we set out at the start, this question of why. And I hope everybody's now in agreement when I say that aside from simply being an award that celebrates well-managed parks and green spaces, the ethos of this program has always been and will always be about much more than just recognition. It's about driving annual improvement through professional feedback. It's about generating ongoing political support. It's about exchanging ideas and learning within the sector. And it's about ensuring that the focus remains on the importance of public parks whilst celebrating all of the people involved. And I also hope you've learned something today, not just about the Green Flag Award, but about why some of the mechanisms of the program might be useful to support your work in parks. And I'll get onto a slide about that afterwards. The Green Flag Award has been successfully delivering all of this for over 20 years. And I hope after today's presentation, you'll think about joining us in this movement. And so finally, I'd like to close for you today with my personal experience of this program. So most people prefer to start presenting by stating their credentials, but in a kind of flip side, I owe quite a lot of my experience in parks to the Green Flag Award itself. I started off quite young with a degree in horticulture, and at the age of 25, got my first job working in parks. My boss at the time said, one of the best ways to learn about park management is to find out what other people are doing and learn from others. And so the best way to do that is through the Green Flag Award. So from early on in my career, I began as an applicant for the Green Flag Award. I then moved on to become a judge, learning from other sites that I was visiting and judging. And now recently, now I'm really proud to work for this program and help to expand it around the world. So I speak from genuine experience when I say to you that your parks and green spaces can greatly benefit from getting involved in the Green Flag Award in so many different ways. And we're here with an established network. We're ready to support you in doing it. And we touched a little bit earlier on this concept of big data, which can sometimes seem a little bit impractical, somewhat overwhelming, a little bit complicated. Well, the beauty of the Green Flag Award is this is something that you as a park manager can start right now. You can start tomorrow. You can get in touch with us, get involved, begin the process. It's straightforward, it's park specific, and it's been tried and tested for over 20 years with widespread support from parks and green spaces in many countries. So thank you very much for your time, and I really hope you now share some of my passion for this program, and I hope that the one thing we can all take away from today is that this program is much more than just an award. Thank you very much for listening, and to close, I have a couple of notes at the end, because I wanted to provide some learning outcomes, and just to reiterate that I covered through the presentation, you can download Raising the Standard. Now, even if you're not thinking about applying for the award, it acts as a really good park management guidance book. It goes through all the criteria of how to meet best practice in managing public parks. You might also think about adopting some of this structure within the Green Flag Award around regular annual inspections, or maybe some sort of independent inspections and reviewing feedback from others, which will help you review your management practices on an annual basis, or you could do it on a monthly basis. And I also urge everybody to have a think about producing or looking at the concept of a park-specific management plan, because the benefits of that are wide-ranging and really, really important for the sector. And I'll close by saying, if you're going to go that far and actually consider a lot of these things, then why not? Why not apply for the Green Flag Award further down the line in the future? Get in touch with us. We're here to support you. The website is really well equipped. We've got some great videos on there. You can access the guidance manual, further information. We're on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can either email me directly or contact us through the website, through the contact page, and it'll get to a member of the team. So that's me to close. Thank you very much for all of your time, and I'll pass back to Scott now, or Kelly Ray, to close the webinar, or well, to take any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Carl. This has been great. We had a couple really good questions, really provocative, so I want to jump into those quickly. And if you would, enter your questions either in the Q&A chat box or the webinar chat. We can see them either way there, Carl. First question was about an entry fee and the element of there may be a very low entry fee for a facility. Does that preclude or prevent that amenity from being included in the Green Flag program?
Yeah, if a park charges an entry fee to get into the park or the main green space area, then it's ineligible to apply. This is about free public space. So if a visitor has to pay to get in, they're not eligible to apply for the Green Flag Award. It's a principal matter on the history of the award.
Detailed question, Carl. If they have amenities within the park that require their entry fee, for instance, if there is a sub garden or museum within the park, though, that would not limit the ability to apply, correct?
You could, yes, you could apply if the main part of the park was free, but for example, you charged entry to some of the elements like a museum or a glass house, that would be accepted.
Great. Wonderful question from Slovenia, and I love this. In your categorization of the different landscapes, a forest was not included, or a public forest. This may just be terms, but if you want to discuss, an urban forest, and is there a possibility to include those larger natural area systems in the Green Flag program, rather than maybe the manicured or more traditional urban park design?
Yeah, well, any public green space, as I mentioned, nature reserves and woodlands were included in that list, but literally any public green space that is free to enter is eligible to apply, and we have forests in the program already. Richmond Park. It can be any public green space, really.
Cool. Question from Rodrigo in Brazil. We hope you guys are doing well down there. It's a tough time for you as well. His question is there any case of park funding being directly related to the park's performance on the Green Flag Award? And I'm guessing he's saying, do you have any evidence of when they got an award or were up, did that help them raise additional funds?
Well, we don't have any statistical evidence of that, but the success of the award is testament to the fact that park managers around the world understand the influence that this can provide. And I mean, you can look at our award winners list on the global map. I mean, you can feel free to contact any Green Flag Award winner and ask them how beneficial the award has been for them. So we don't have any. The thing about the Green Flag Award is it's very qualitative. So the feedback itself is qualitative. It's specific to the park, but I mean, I'm talking again about this big data thing. It's not a load of statistics and numbers. So we don't have that evidence, but the evidence is in the success of the program, if that's a good enough answer.
We will find out if Rodrigo fires back another question. From William Brennan, can community gardens apply for the award within city limits? And William, I'm in follow up to that. Is it an individual community garden or a system of community gardens? Maybe that's the question.
Yeah, well, community gardens can apply. And it's usually, each application is usually each site. You have to apply on an individual site basis, so you can't stick several different gardens together as one application. Now, I don't want to confuse the matters too much, but in the UK, for example, we have a separate award specifically for the community gardens, and that's free. But we haven't established that in other countries yet. So if you're a community garden run by a charity or a voluntary organization, get in touch with us anyway, because it might be that further down the line, we can introduce the community award into your country at a later date.
Question was, could the Green Flag facilitate meetings for the parks that are already Green Flag Award winners or maybe in cycle? Is there a network emerging within the Green Flag communities to discuss management, stewardship, innovation, challenges, etc.?
Yeah, definitely. That happens naturally in each country. And usually at national conferences in a lot of countries, they'll host Green Flag sessions on the side. Another thing to mention is that I said earlier that a lot of the time, if you're an applicant, you're probably also a judge, because this is a two-sided coin. You can learn a lot from both sides of being judged and judging yourself. What we do every year in well-established countries is we hold a judges debrief where all the judges get together to discuss the program, to review it, and to make recommendations for any changes or improvements that we can do to the program. And through that brings together judges who are also applicants themselves as well.
Very good. I'm looking to see if there are any other questions. There are a lot of folks I can see scratching their heads and thinking about fits. Carl, while I wait for another question, what is your favorite story from the Green Flag process of a site visit? Can you give us and it can be a funny story or an insightful story. I'll kind of let that up to you.
My favorite, but I did hear a story about when we were walking around, when I was judging a smaller community park, and we were with, some people take the judging very seriously. So we were kind of in this sort of semi-formal situation, walking around judging the park. And one of the community group members came up to us and said, because they just redeveloped this lake in the middle of the park, refurbished all the biodiversity around it. And the manager was talking about how they moved this forward. And the member of the community group, who was an old lady, came up and said, "I'll tell you how we got it done. We took the local mayor and we threatened to throw him in the lake if he didn't fix it." So that's a little story about, harsh community in action, although I don't recommend throwing mayors in lakes unless it works.
Unless it works. That's a good segue. I have a question from Jane Hargraves. Love the presentation. She works for the Canal and River Trust.
Yeah.
They applied for the award. If they won the award, would they have to be reassessed and then judged each year?
Yes, yes. At any park, in order to maintain the Green Flag Award standard and to fly the flag, you need to reapply on an annual basis. Now, this isn't a one-off because parks are constant, you know. This is an annual assessment to make sure that the quality is maintained for everybody every year.
William Brennan asked, what are the main features that you are looking for? A snapshot of what you're looking at on those visits. Well,
the judges are trained to use the criteria in the guidance manual. And I'll segue over to that. So the guidance manual, if you're looking for that sort of information, the guidance manual on the screen at the moment, Raising the Standard, is the best source. But I will say, so they will use the criteria and they will be asking questions of the park management as they walk around. You know, how are you meeting, how are you addressing, how are you increasing biodiversity on the site, for example, or how are you conserving the heritage features in the site? Let us see some evidence of that. But I will say as well, it says this in the manual, the Green Flag Award isn't a sort of descriptive list of things that you must have or must not have. So you don't need to have toilets, you don't need to have a play area, you don't need to have formal horticultural planting. It's all about what's appropriate to each in particular sites and what's appropriate to the community and what they expect to get from their park.
Great question here from Rupinder. What happens when the two judges have a difference of opinion?
Oh, the boxing gloves come out. No, I mean, this is an important part of the reason we have two judges every other year is because it brings two people together that maybe have different experience in different parts of the green space sector. So one might have special expertise in biodiversity, another might have special expertise in horticulture. So bringing them together just provides that healthy debate. But in the end, they come to a conclusion on the scoring and the feedback. So the judges exchange the feedback report between themselves by email, usually remotely, and they also agree the scoring between themselves. So it's a joint decision.
Great. Any other questions? I see Mary's comment here. She generously offered to help anyone thinking of applying. She's been a judge since 2004 and also is in the World Urban Parks, Large Parks Committee member. Yay, Jane. So there are a lot of folks, Carl.
Hi, Mary.
That what I've seen out there, that there are a lot of folks that want to help you succeed, correct? This isn't like, oh my gosh, I'm going to the principal's office to go get tested. This is a helpful process, correct?
Yeah, well, that's a really good point to make, Scott. This isn't a shot in the dark for parks that want to apply. If you're thinking of applying, get in touch with us. We'll actually review what you're already doing. We'll review your management plan in advance. You know, we'll have a conversation with you and we'll decide, we'll advise you on whether we think you're ready or not. We're not trying to catch people out. We're trying to recognize well-managed parks. And if you're not quite there yet, we'll have that conversation and we'll support you in order to elevate your standards or put what you need to in place in order to achieve it. This is what this is about. It's called Raising the Standard. It's not called, you know, applying gold stars to the already really good parks. This is about driving up standards and maintaining them and celebrating that hard work by the sector.
Great. We have one final question and then we will conclude this session. Kelly, I do want to let everyone know in the chat link, you can see there, Kelly has posted the information for CEUs, should you need those for continuing education. The final softball to you, Jamie, is what is your favorite, or Carl, what is your favorite park? And that comes from Jamie. So you got
that's not fair. Pardon?
You got to pick your favorite child. We're not going to let you off the hook.
Well, I can't pick a favorite, but one of the most interesting parks that I visited recently was in Portugal, Parque da Cidade, the city park in Porto. Have a look at it. It's very highly influenced by Olmsted's designs across the US, so it's interesting for the US community. Designed by a guy called Sidonio Pardal, who is kind of Portugal's national green space architect. Check it out, Parque da Cidade, the city park in Porto. It's Green Flag Award winning too.
Carl, thank you for your time very much today, and thank all of the over 50 folks who tuned in. And if we don't say it, thank you for all the work you're doing serving your communities during this really tough time. You guys are, and your teams are doing heroic work. We appreciate you so very much out there, and we're all thinking of each other in these tough times. Carl's email is on the page, so feel free. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you afterwards. And if you're not doing anything in a few hours, p.m. East Coast U.S. time, that's 3 hours from now, feel free to tune back in for a wonderful global presentation, including Bishop from South Africa, who I see on the call, and a bunch of other global professionals on what they're doing to help parks manage this tough times. And thanks, World Parks Academy, Indiana University here in the States. And we look forward to seeing you guys again. Thank you all so very much. Be safe out there.
Thank you very much, everybody. Take care.